The summer 2025 movie season is coming to an end, and I was pretty much at the theater all summer long. So now I'm here to give my top 10 rankings to my 10 favorite movies that I saw this summer. At number 10, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I still don't know how Tom Cruise does all the crazy stuff that he does in these movies, but I'm forever grateful as a viewer that he is an absolute maniac and does it all for the viewers just to show off how magical cinema can be. And while this movie isn't among my favorite Mission Impossible movies, although that's kind of an unfair statement to say because I don't think that there is necessarily a bad Mission Impossible movie, it was still one of my favorite cinematic experiences of the entire year. Cruise ups the maniac ante again with the plane and submarine sequences in this movie. I still don't know which one is my favorite one, even trying to remember back on both of them. They're both absolutely insane. They were awesome to see on screen. And if this truly is the end for Tom and the Mission Impossible movies, I just want to say thank you for giving us some of the best and most jaw-dropping action movies and scenes ever put together on the big screen. Number 9, 28 Years Later. 28 Days Later is still the scariest zombie-infected movie that I have ever seen in my life. I still vividly remember turning that movie off multiple times as a kid trying to get through it. It was just one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life, mainly because of the camera work was just so crazy trying to watch it. So going into this, I was really interested if this movie could keep that same fear factor that I remembered from the original 28 Days Later. And although I inevitably wasn't as scared in this movie, and in fairness, that's likely a result of me just being older and seeing more horror movies and just being older and this stuff doesn't scare me as much anymore, I thought this was still a worthy sequel of this now ever-growing franchise. This movie actually has quite a bit of a tonal shift between the first half of the movie and the second half of the movie. The first half of the movie is very, horror infected, kind of what we've come to expect with this franchise focus, but then it tonally shifts pretty dramatically into this kind of emotional and touching narrative on death and accepting death and love, and there's also some comedic bits sprinkled in there that I wasn't really expecting as a viewer, but again, it mostly worked for me. It's also just a very beautifully shot movie. The race back to the town scene at night when the Alpha is chasing Aaron Taylor Johnson and his son through the water is not only tense, but it's also strangely one of the most gorgeous scenes I have seen this year in any movie, which is kind of weird to say as a zombie movie with infected people with blood all over the place, but again, just very beautiful to watch. And while the ending is a bit wonky and might throw you for a loop when you see it, because again, it's another big tonal shift, I pretty much digged it, and I'm really excited to see where the sequel to this movie goes. Number 8, Lilo and Stitch. So I never saw the original Lilo and Stitch animated film before seeing this movie, and I'm kind of happy I didn't, so I didn't go in with any biases. I took my wife to this one. We took our 2 older children, we took my mother, one of my sisters, and my nieces came. And I just thought this was a really good, really heartwarming, just a really loving family movie for the summer. I was frequently looking over at my wife to see how she was reacting with this because she's the big Disney fan. She's the big Lilo and Stitch fan, and she was choking up and tearing throughout this entire movie. She's a pretty emotional person kind of as is, but I wanted to see what her experience was like as someone who has seen the animated film before, so it was definitely touching her heartstrings as well. And I can't lie, even for myself, I started choking up at a few of these scenes. I'm just going to chalk that up to now me being a dad, me having kids, these scenes and these movies just kind of hit me. I don't even care what type of movie it is. If there's kids in there now, there's emotional scenes, I get choked up now as a dad, is what it is. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've also since seen the original animated movie, and I'm actually okay with the ending switch. That kind of created some controversy that I saw, some people not being happy with it. I actually thought it was a really good change. I thought it was way more realistic. I also thought there was still a lot of love there in that change. So I was cool with that ending change. I actually really enjoyed it much, and actually my wife enjoyed the ending even more than the original animated movie's ending as well. And Disney also succeeded in creating new fans because now my kids won't stop asking to watch Lilo and Stitch, the animated series, and the originated film any chance that they get. Number 7, Predator: Killer of Killers. So this is a film that actually didn't play in theater. This is my one streaming movie that I have on my top 10 list. So this was a movie that streamed on Hulu, and it was created by the super talented and passionate Dan Trachtenberg. And if you're a fan of the Predator movies, fan of the Predator universe, and you don't know Dan's name, you are soon going to know Dan's name. After delivering Prey, another Dan Trachtenberg movie back in 2022, which was also another Hulu release, he follows that up with Predator: Killer of Killers, which is a period piece anthology film following 3 protagonists over 3 different time periods, one being a Viking, one being a samurai, one being a World War II pilot. And then it follows 3 different predators trying to track them, hunt them, and fight their groups. The animation is really good and the action is as brutal as Predator fans are expecting from this franchise. They definitely don't let up on the gore here. The 3 stories also eventually culminate in the end to having the protagonists all come together and work together against these predators, and it actually builds out the Predator lore more than we've seen in any of these Predator franchises before. And also don't forget, stay through the credits because it definitely teases more to come in this universe. Oh, and I forgot to mention, please give this video a like if you enjoy the content. Leave a comment in the comments section with your thoughts on any of these movies that I'm talking about or any really good summer movie releases that you saw that I left out. And please subscribe to this channel for future movie, TV series, and comic-related content. Number 6, Nobody 2. If there was ever a family-friendly, rated-R movie, Nobody 2 is as close as you're going to get to exactly that. This is a mix of National Lampoon's Vacation meets John Wick's action meets Home Alone in the end with a crazy third act that is just a really fun time to watch. I really can't say enough how much fun I had with this movie. You can tell the entire cast, and that's starting with Bob Odenkirk, is just having a great time making these movies. This movie also brought in director Timo Chianto, who's quickly becoming one of my favorite action directors after watching The Shadow Strays last year on Netflix. He wrote, directed, and produced that himself. So if you haven't seen that on Netflix, go give that a watch, then go see this. You'll become a big fan of his action work. And so long as Bob wants to keep making these movies, if he can keep still making these movies, I'm going to keep gladly showing up because I'm having an awesome time with them. And brownie bonus points. These movies, both Nobody and Nobody 2, have been a brisk 90 minutes, so you're in and out of the theater, so thumbs up there for being able to compact all of that into a short and great time. To the top 5 now, starting with number 5, Superman. I've always been a bigger fan of select characters in the DC universe, specifically Batman, big shocker, just like everybody else, than I have in any of its universes or stories, and not included in that select few has been Superman. He's just not a character I've ever really connected with in the past. I've always had a personal thing just against the all-powerful type of characters because they're so strong, it kind of just dims and ruins the stakes a little bit because they are so powerful. You kind of just expect them eventually to overpower and figure it out. But with all that being said, I am a massive James Gunn fan. I personally think he is one of the best, if not the best, comic book movie directors, creators in this entire business. So when I saw that he got attached to be the co-CEO of DC Studios to run this new DCU, to pretty much oversee the story of the DCU moving forward, I was really excited to see the DCU, specifically this Superman, kick off to see his vision going forward. And no surprise, he made me a fan of Superman. It's a movie that's totally unafraid of looking, sounding, and feeling like a comic book exploding onto the big screen. And that's something that's been missing a bit lately in comic book movies. We even took my 5-year-old son to the movie. This is his first comic book movie, and he absolutely loved it. It's just a really good and fun time at the movie and what's hopefully going to be a very bright future for the DCU going forward after what was mostly a painful roller coaster ride for DC fans with the DCEU in this past decade. Number 4, Thunderbolts. Unfortunately, at the box office, this felt like a casualty from the fallout of Captain America: Brave New World and much of the missteps that Marvel had in the multiverse saga before it. Box office does not tell the full story of Thunderbolts, or the New Avengers as they are called, as this was one of the best MCU movies in the multiverse saga, in my opinion. This movie was marketed as an indie A24 type of movie, and it makes sense because the majority of the creative team behind this is indie film kind of world workers. It had mostly good and grounded action scenes, but this was mostly a story of grief, how to handle that grief, and being there for each other in the end. This was honestly the type of movie that I wish Marvel put out at the very beginning of the multiverse saga post-Endgame, because this movie highlighted characters like Yelena, Florence Pugh, who's kind of in mourning of the sister that she lost, Scarlett Johansson's character, and highlighting how her character is struggling in this new world, trying to move on, trying to find themselves again. And that's what I think the audience needed to see at the beginning of the multiverse saga. How are these characters coming about again? How are they finding themselves? How are they dealing in this new world again where they've lost some loved ones? You know, where the world is so different now. So in retrospect, I wish this movie was pushed to the forefront of the multiverse saga, but it is what it is. All in all, I think this is a really good group of characters for the MCU moving forward. Again, this didn't do that well at the box office, but I'm hoping it finds an audience once it gets on to Disney+. so that they can continue growing and getting more screen time in the future. Number 3, The Fantastic Four. This was such a breath of fresh air for Marvel Studios and quite literally an entirely different physical look for the MCU. This movie did what arguably the Marvel should have done for the majority of multiverse saga movies in setting these characters in this group up in an entirely different universe in world than the MCU universe and Earth that we know with our characters. I was already excited going into this film, not necessarily because I'm a big Fantastic Four fan, although I'm a Marvel fan, but I was more excited because Matt Shakman got attached to direct this. Matt Shakman directed WandaVision, which is one of my favorite projects in the multiverse saga. And what made WandaVision stand out so much is its unique and rich time period set pieces that transported you as a viewer back into those time periods and really immersed you into that kind of story that they were telling in those episodes. So knowing that Fantastic Four was going to be a time period piece set in the 1960s, I knew Matt Shakman was going to knock this one out of the park visually. It had such a beautiful retro futuristic Jetsons feel that made you want to live in this Earth yourself and explore even more of it. The film also finally took Galactus out of cloud purgatory that he's been stuck in and made him this massive comic accurate size character. So that alone gives the movie a 1 star out of 5 just at the beginning without seeing anything else in my opinion. The space chase scene also is one of my favorite scenes ever in Marvel, with Silver Surfer chasing the Fantastic Four through space, through the black hole, very reminiscent visually of Interstellar. So again, this was another really good step for Marvel in the right direction, immediately following Thunderbolts, and hopefully that this is a sign of the type of care and quality that is to come for Marvel in the future going forward when they get to the X-Men after Secret Wars. Number 2, F1. I mean, what more can you ask of from a summer blockbuster? You get the good-looking A-list actor in Brad Pitt. You get the director in Joseph Kosinski, who did Top Gun Maverick, who just knows how to deliver an absolute summer cinematic experience for the ages. You've got a simple sports story that's easy to follow and characters to root for as the film progresses. And you've got an all-time composer in Hans Zimmer that delivers a score that just locks you into every scene and just catapults these scenes into a different stratosphere that's normally only reserved from the best that we've seen from summer blockbusters. Honestly, I have no more thoughts than that. It's just an awesome time at the movie theaters, and it's the exact type of example of why we love going to see these types of movies on the big screen in theater. And at number 1, Ballerina. This was not only my favorite movie of the summer, but it's easily the most underrated movie of the year in my opinion. No other movie I saw this summer had me grinning from ear to ear throughout almost the entirety of the movie that I did with Ballerina. I legitimately had the best time of the year watching this movie. I thought Ana de Armas' Eve was a great character addition into this universe. She's a total badass. The action scenes are badass, and this movie does a really good job of not turning her into a Mary Sue, which was kind of one of my big worries going into this, but they immediately squelched that worry by kind of tackling that head on in the beginning in her training. There's kind of this line that her instructor gives, fight like a girl, because she's fighting a guy who's overpowering her, and her instructor point blank tells her, you're a girl, you're never going to be able to overpower these, male opponents that you're facing, so you have to fight like a girl, get creative with your surroundings. And she literally takes that to heart in the next scene with him. She kicks him in the nuts, eventually subduing him because he's on the ground from that kick. And then that kind of goes forth through the rest of the movie as she has to use pretty much anything and everything within her power, within her skill set, to overpower her adversaries before her. Which also reminds me that this movie contains some of the very best action scenes that I have seen in the John Wick universe. There's a grenade belt scene specifically that is among my top 3 favorite action scenes in the John Wick universe, and one of my favorite scenes that I've seen in an action movie in quite some time. I also thought this movie perfectly balanced John Wick's screen time in this one. He never felt like he overpowered the movie, and he was surprisingly in the movie for way more than I expected. I thought when he was marketed in the movie, I thought it was just going to kind of be just a quick, snatch and grab. He's in here for a quick second and go. He actually has a decent role in this movie, mostly towards the end. He gets his own action scene, which is awesome. But again, it never feels like he's overpowering Eve, which is, if you went that route, it then turns back into a John Wick movie and less of Ballerina Eve's movie, which is hard to build her character going forward. So I thought they perfectly nailed John Wick's screen time in this one to not make him feel overbearing while also adding to the movie and Eve's character. I would definitely enjoy seeing Eve pop up again in the John Wick universe. It's probably not going to be in a sequel directly to her, but I think she'd be a great character addition to be a supporting character in a future John Wick movie. I think she really does have a future in this universe, and I highly recommend this film to any and all John Wick fans or just fans of the action genre.